is Scott Wilson, and in the lineup is Jerry McMillan, Gary Belanger, Richard Picazara, and Matt Zurell. I'm sorry. Yeah, so you'll be as we call you, but those are just the lineup, okay? So you could stay there. It's quick. Yeah, absolutely. Go right ahead, Scott.
Thank you, Senator Hartley. Greetings, Public Safety and Security Committee members. My name is Scott Wilson. I am a resident of New London, and I am also the president of the Connecticut Citizens Defense League. I believe you've heard from a number of our members here today and in the past weeks. We were also one of the organizations, along with Bob Crook and the National Shooting Sports Foundation and the NRA, that were able to put on the lobby day on Monday, where several thousand gun owners and Second Amendment rights supporters were able to show up at the Capitol and make contact with their legislators. I am here to oppose SB 505, SB 506, SB 1071, 8897, 1076, 6162, 6251, and 6595, and lastly 6598. It is my belief none of these bills being heard today would have prevented the Sandy Hook tragedy, nor will it prevent the current flow of guns that are obtained illegally from criminals that roam our city streets and prey on each other as well as innocents. When actual bills are heard that I believe will reduce the tragedies such as what occurred in Sandy Hook or reduce crime overall, I will be happy to submit testimony that speaks to these real issues. There are in fact several bills that have been introduced this session, not on today's calendar, that may accomplish just that. I will focus on just a few bills today. SB 505, an act concerning the minimum age to purchase a rifle or other long gun. You've already heard. I believe that somebody that's of legal age to vote in the state of Connecticut, vote for people like yourselves, and enlist in the military, should be able to own a firearm. I believe that many of these children, and I'm deviating a little bit from my written testimony, but many of these children, once they become adults, they move out of their house, and they may move into, like myself, when I became of legal age to move out, I didn't have a career like I have today. I worked at a chicken store, slinging chicken in a convenience store, and also in a very dangerous neighborhood in my city. And I lived within my means at that time in a neighborhood that was higher than average crime statistics. So that's where our people that become adults have to move to, these types of neighborhoods, unless they have a very good upbringing and means to live beyond like I grew up. So I really think we need to consider that we're going to be taking the rights away from a number of legal age adults to not even be able to have a rifle or even a shotgun for home protection in their home to protect themselves at night. And that's my thoughts on 505. I think are summarized. 6595, an act prohibiting the discharge of firearms near private residences. There has not been much testimony today that I've heard. I've stepped out a couple of times, but it jeopardizes the numerous gun clubs and ranges that dot the state and also individual members of these clubs by attaching criminal charges to the statutory language. A gun club or a gun range in this typical environment is where safe handling of firearms is trained to maintain good standards. We would all agree that training is a good thing for people that own and use firearms. Concerns over discharged projectiles that may cross over property boundaries are already covered by applicable laws. Reckless endangerment, 53A-63 or 6.3-2 in the first or second degree, respectively. 3 final points on this bill I'd like to make. There is no self-defense provision in the language for somebody that uses a firearm in defense of themselves, maybe in a residential neighborhood. Many of the clubs and the ranges that currently exist right now predate the houses that are near them. And many police also train at these facilities, oftentimes as guests of the club, so that way they are able to maintain their safety standards. I was going to go into 1071. I do believe, just to summarize real quick, that there's already federal legislation which is called the Protection of Lawful Commerce and Arms Act, that a third party really can't be sued for the criminal negligence of a firearm used by an individual. So essentially this is an end around tax that really doesn't it may affect the manufacturers and importers initially, but ultimately that cost always gets passed on to the consumer. So I would like to thank you for hearing my testimony, and if there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Scott, is there any questions? Representative Mike Cattell.
Yes, thank you. And I think the point about that you made about existing gun ranges that might, I guess, have to be would be negatively impacted on this.
Absolutely.
Negatively impacted on this bill by preventing the discharge of a firearm within 500 feet. I think that's an important point to make, and any type of legislation should certainly carve out that, because otherwise it would have to shut down gun ranges that have been in existence for some 50, 60 years. So that's a point well taken. Thank you.
Thank you. And if I could just speak to that real quick, there's also, again, as I stated, if a projectile crosses over a property boundary where an existing home is, there's already laws on the books for this. There are many people that do have home ranges that have enough property to shoot safely on, provided they have a proper backstop, a little berm of some type to be able to shoot on their property. And if they're shooting safely, just because the house is 500 yards away, it could be 500 yards behind the range, behind where you're shooting from, where downrange is in the opposite direction. What point would that serve? It would just stop people from being able to utilize their private property as they see fit. And again, there's enough laws already in the state to protect people, that neighbors and the like, from such from anything going wrong.
Any questions from members of the committee? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for hearing me.